Oh, hello there, Travis. What are we actually seeing starts to get complicated? It was easy. It will start to separate. Are definitely not behind that restricted access grid. They're not. Forget about it.
None of them will be able to be revived.
So please, be reasonable. Returning to the orientation we is the private traditional. A stabby, but I don't think. And those rectangular outcroppings weren't. Here is my Catwoman glove and glove. I should have a floating, impossible anti-gravity blah blah blah. Now, if we were to take it, snapshots, eventually, how do you transmit a discrete shell?
Well, Ari, we've been tracking this thing for weeks and we still don't know what it is.
The basilisk has its eyes on you now. What are you going to do? Then at some point, the acceleration is going to get so high that you're going to pass 9.8 meters. Look, I know that neither of those examples were fun. A screaming fish on this side would never be fun, leaving me weightless no matter where I am. What the? We generate our heat endogenously or within our own bodies. I give killer high fives. Is it? That it? This story is only one of a dozen. Okay, good, because it's rock, paper, scissors. Where are you right now? Bam. The fingerling. That fingerling. Isn't that wild? Fingerling.
This is good coffee. Oh, I'm sorry, what were we talking about?
Oh, hello, and welcome to Office Hours, a live component of the facility where good old Professor Kyle opens up his zero-point energy field manipulator doors and allows you, members of the general public, my security team, who have their hands full today because of what I titled this video, all my lovely professors who have joined the facility at patreon.com/Kyle. Everyone gets to come in for about the next hour or so while we talk about all things science-y, gooby, magnetic-y. We'll be taking your comments and questions from anything you're putting, well, not anything, but most things you're putting there in the chat as I am reading. Hello, Jezebel, welcome. I know there's a lot of Australians in the chat today. I've been practicing my Australian accent. I know you will love it. Thank you to all the people who are first-time viewers, but if you don't want to be just a first-time viewer, you want to be a professor, you want to interact with me in real time, you can always go to patreon.com/Kyle Hill and join the facility. You get our official Discord, which no, is not free. You get videos early, you get monthly professors-only live streams, you get behind the scenes, this, that, and everything. Of course, if you really, really, really want me to see something live, you can try Super Chat here while this is live on YouTube. Can't promise I get to everything, but I'll try my very best to get to most of them, as Liz Calvert, as always, demonstrates for us here today with the 20. Hey, Science Kyle. Tiny Alex, his question of the week says his favorite number is 64 because that's the thing you can have in your, you can have a stack of 64 things in Minecraft. What's your favorite number and why? I just twitched my nose like a bunny. You see that? I think my favorite number is 43 because it was the number of a monster truck that I liked. Have you ever gone to a monster truck rally? I've only been to one. It's not like I'm an aficionado, but they are the loudest things I've ever heard that are legal. You know what I mean? I mean, aside from like someone firing a gun next to your head or something like that, I went to a show and I had to tear up the pamphlet that they give you and I had to put it in my ears. It was unbelievable. DJ El Pass, first time catching a stream. Welcome. Hey Kyle, what if Newton's third law didn't exist? Says Izula. As everyone knows, Newton's third law is for every action there's an equal and opposite reaction. Well, Izula, let me give you a quick little example. If every action didn't have an equal and opposite reaction, you wouldn't be able to move. You wouldn't be able to walk. Walking requires actual friction, equal and opposite forces. You would You wouldn't be able to move at all. It'd be like you're stuck in the middle of space, and pretty much everything in the universe wouldn't work, and probably everyone would die, you know, that kind of thing. S. Marcy, it's time for Science Lore. Oh! Got to see Top Fuel dragsters there like bombs going off. Exactly. So, like I said, we'll be going through this week in science and pop culture, the stuff that interests me. There's only two things that we're going to get to today, as the title implies. I want to know what you think of this magnetic turd. And then, of course, we'll be taking your comments, questions, and corrections from the latest episode of the facility. But like I said, while we do that, if you have any questions, I can't get this correct. If you have any questions for me, we will get to them. Out of the four endings of the universe, which do you think is most acceptable? Says Sauce 11. Well, we kind of have Ben Schaefer. Thank you for one. I kind of have an episode on the end of the universe coming out ish sometime, if I can ever figure out how to power a 60 RPM motor. But I think it's widely accepted that the heat, so-called heat death of the universe is the most likely. Being on vacation, way too OP. How you doing, buddy? Says Dreen. Simping Dreen style. I don't understand the dream simpers. Are you normally on the right side of the facility? Kyle is all right today. How astute of you. Chibi Hugs with the 5 says, thank you for the latest video. It made it easier for this teacher to explain how a hand works to a bunch of preschoolers, says Chibi Hugs. Chibi, thank you. A, or 1, for being a teacher in the first place. B, or 2, teaching preschoolers. That can't be easy. And 3, using my videos to be of some use to you. I absolutely love it when I get any kind of feedback from real teachers in the field, such as you, that use resources that I create intentionally or unintentionally. Really makes everything better. Unlocked, how's your finger feeling? So, like I said in the rock climbing video, I got injured like over a year ago now, so my finger is healed. It's not like actively injured. It just feels. We'll talk about it when we get to peer review, as I said. Plankton says, like, why is time the speed it is? Now, that isn't... there's so much in that. Why is time the speed it is? Because of this... It's the fastest something can go through oh, man, this is hard to explain. So if you imagine that, what would be the smallest unit of time something could take passing through the smallest amount of known distance in the universe? Okay, so if you get like, just say quantum and transition. Well, this is quantum mechanics, which we have a video coming out about in 2 days for World Quantum Day. But if you roughly think of it, and this is, as far as I understand it from talking with a quantum mathematician, it's basically like the smallest amount of time. If you divide the smallest amount of distance in the universe, like Planck length, by the smallest amount of time it could take to traverse that, then you get the speed of light, or something like that. It's something, don't quote me on that. You know what? I'm just going to say quantum and transition. Quantum! Oh! Magnet turds. Isn't time perception a factor of the amount of sensory input? Says that innocent guy. Time perception is a different thing than the speed of light. So, You can verify this. But the speed of light has to be equivalent in all reference frames, no matter how you're moving, no matter how heavy you are or around what heavy thing. Talking about relativity here, every observer will measure the speed of light as the same. The perception of time is different. It's independent of the speed of light and the speed of time itself, because if an individual's brain wasn't doing information processing at the same speed as another individual, then their perception of events passing throughout the universe would be different. For example, your perception is different than a fly's perception, which has like a reaction time of like 5 milliseconds, versus the perception of like an eel that lives on the bottom of the sea, under the sea, if you will, which has perceptual times, we think, that are so slow, you could probably run past it and it wouldn't have seen you because it doesn't perceive things that quickly. Like you would move in and out of its field of vision before that sensory input would get to it. It's frame rate. Daw says, why are you live streaming instead of video? You're lost. It's fine. Frank Darren with the 3 says, is it not all relative? The only thing that's not relative is the speed of light. That, I mean, that's one of the basic things, the most basic thing about what Einstein figured out and postulated. Light is not, the speed of light is not relative. If the speed of light suddenly becomes unrelative, then a lot of stuff gets weird. Anyway. So, we have this magnetic turd. Now, it came out, this study came out on April Fool's Day. Everyone thought it was an April Fool's joke at Hong Kong University of Hong Kong. They say, no, it is not. This is true. And so what the heck is this gross thing for? Well, this is more or less magnetic putty, and we've been making magnetic putty for a long time. Well, we've been making magnetic putty before scientists were making magnetic putty, right? You've seen YouTube videos with weird slime tubers. Now that sounds as bad as my title. Elizabeth Calver says, with the 10, Tiny Human wants to know if the speed of light is faster than time. They're related. Ugh. And as always, as I am practicing my Australian accent, now that I'm thinking about it, if any Aussies in the chat donate, I will read it to you in your own speak. Anyway, so we've been making magnetic putty for a long time, but what these scientists at Hong Kong University wanted to do, or want to do, is take advantage of the viscoelastic properties of a substance like this. Something that is infinitely malleable under the influence of magnetic fields. So all you do to make something like this is get silly putty and magnetic particles, anything that's ferromagnetic. Australians in the chat are not looking forward to that. Anything that's ferromagnetic, and you powderify it. That's a word. And you mix it into the silly putty, or non-newtonian stuff, and then you just attract it with external magnetic fields. What these scientists did specifically is just crush up neodymium magnets. The Nutman 78. Hey Kyle, first live stream, just want to say I love the videos and I've learned so much, especially about nuclear power. Keep up some of the best quality content on YouTube. Max Schulke says, I'm going to go eat some magnets. Now, don't do that. But I think they may have tried that to get some, like, nails out of a kid's stomach once. Don't do it. I'm just saying, I remember looking at something like that once. But this is kind of the same idea, except a lot safer. Now, you use silly putty or this viscoelastic non-Newtonian fluid, because it can respond to stimuli in different ways. So when you say something is non-Newtonian, it has a time component to how it reacts to force. Okay? And we'll watch a video about this little turd in a second. Okay? So if you have two billiard balls or whatever, how they respond as objects doesn't depend on how long you apply the force for. Okay? So a solid billiard ball, for example, if you smack it, it moves how you expect, and if you just slowly push on it, it also stays the same shape, the same everything, and it moves how you expect. Now, that's Newtonian, that's simple. Cause and effect. But for a non-Newtonian fluid, there's a time component, as I say, and this is what slime lovers everywhere enjoy, is, how would you say it more technically, from an engineering perspective, is that the the fluid or the object responds to shear forces of stuff moving past other stuff, depending on time. So, as you may know, silly putty will act much more like a solid if force is applied quickly. And if you were just to hang silly putty from your hand, gravitational force being relatively applied slowly, it starts to flow and drip much more like a fluid instead of a solid. So in this way, cornstarch and water, silly putty, they act like solids, they can act like liquids. It depends on the rate at which force is applied to them. Brandon Wirt says, so how's this getting inside me? So, you take silly putty, you put magnetic particles inside of it, making it responsive to magnetic fields, attracted to magnetic fields, whether it be an external magnet or whatever. And then, Brandon, you probably put this either in your mouth or, yeah. So the researchers wanted to experiment with this as a way to recover, say, an object that someone swallowed by accident. Isn't it oobleck, not silly putty? No, I don't think this is like oobleck. Cinnamon sugar Courtney. Ooh, fancy name. I believe this is more silly putty, because it wants to stick to stuff. Ryan Hurley said, overview effect says, would this go in your ear, your nose? Theoretically, it can go in any one of your holes. But how does that do that? Well, we know that magnetic fields can penetrate the body. This is how we use magnetic resonance imaging, etc., etc. You need really powerful magnets. But you can think of the advantage of putting this in someone's body and being able to manipulate its movement from outside of the body. So right now, the alternatives to that are surgery. You know, say someone swallowed something really dangerous and you'd have to open up the stomach via the chest, or via the abdomen rather, and go in there physically. Or you have like laparoscopic interventions where you put like a tube down someone's mouth with a little claw on the end of it. But the advantage is this is that there's no tube. There's no incision. You can move this thing down, say your esophagus, with external magnetic fields, and it looks a little something like this. Doesn't that just look fun? Now this is of course sped up, Oh, I'm confusing laparoscopic and endoscopic. Well, you know what I mean. Potato Island, welcome. So what's impressive about this to me is, being able to move it up and down through complex shaped Kyle, I'm eating. Through complex environments, which means that they have to be manipulating magnetic fields in 3 dimensions, right? Especially to see what it does next, which is actually move itself up and around an object like a wire. Let's continue. Also, what's interesting, now when we all become cyborgs, this might be, or look, more realistically, if you're fixing a complicated machine or something and you don't want to open it up, you could fix broken circuits this way. Or when we become cyborgs, you could go inside with this magnetic putty and draw 2 wires back together to fix broken circuits, as it says, because with the magnetic particles, which are metal, this thing is conductive. Probably not great conductivity, but better than a broken circuit, I suppose. And, it has a custard-like consistency, so maybe it is more like oobleck than silly putty. Doesn't matter, both non-Newtonian stuff. Another advantage to that is that, as you see here, they're saying it has, like self-healing properties, but what it really is, like we talked about, is more so that when it's just allowed to sit there under a slow-ish application of force, like, or just like a constant small application of force, like gravitational force, its own weight, it tends to flow like a liquid. And so even if it's cut, if it's close enough such that that flow will reach the other cut globules, it can quote-unquote heal itself in that way. A lot of people are commenting, can this get weird stuff out of my weird stuff places? Well, I don't like the motion it's making right there. It looks so much like a ribbon worm, says Will Holtz. If you want to ruin your day, look up ribbon worms. Not ruin, I think it's pretty cool, but... Okay, so here's the big selling point of this. Do you want Birkin glasses before you got hidden for spamming all caps? Do you want gray goo? Because this is how we get goo. This is nothing like gray goo. Gray goo is the colloquial term for self-replicating nanomachines, which this has zero likeness to, for which. So here's the big selling point. In this model of the stomach, now I'm not sure exactly how they're going to do this, because this is a they're showing us, practically speaking here, think about what they're doing. They have a 2-dimensional model of the stomach, so they could just have a magnet underneath this model and move it around, right? But if you're inside of a person's body, you probably have to move in X, Y, Z direction, so it's going to be hard to... Anyway, they'll figure it out. Pierce 5 with the 9.99. Hey, Kyle, been a fan since Because Science. I'd like to sponsor a video at some point. How do I get in touch with you? Well, Pierce, or Pierce, I can tell you 2 things. The email is on my website. It's not cheap. But happy to hear you out. It takes me a lot of time to do one thing. Costs money. So they'd have to be moving magnetic fields around you in 3 dimensions. But if they can figure out how to do that, I wonder what this would feel like. Would you be able to feel this? Is there enough sensory neurons in the stomach or in your throat? Well, you'd probably be under general anesthesia, right? Something like that. So would you feel this? That's another reason why, well, first of all, don't eat octopi or octopodes. Don't eat octopuses, because they're probably sentient, and that's bad. And so A. B, don't eat live octopi like they do in some Asian countries, because see theorem A for why that is a terrible thing to do to an organism. C, when you eat a live octopus, it probably feels like something like this, right? Which is to say terrible. Anyway, you're probably under general anesthesia. So it could move to say, okay, some poor kid swallowed a battery. You could envelop that battery, and then I don't like how it's moving. It can envelop the battery or what have you, some object, and then I suppose you could either pass the entire thing or they could move it back out of you. Now, Cody Naisbitt, the 5, says, I'm currently obsessed with Elden Ring. Can we get some more Elden Ring videos? I might stream it again, but in terms of another like fully dedicated episode, I don't know. The content that seems to do super well is speed running and or like lore explanation videos, both of which I don't do. So I don't know. Anyway, so again, the advantage of something like this, even though it looks gross, the advantage of something like this, I mean, you can see it. Again, you don't need invasive surgery. You can go and grab something inside of a kid's stomach. They swallow a comb or something irregularly shaped that hurts. This might be too big, but and you can do all this from the outside with something that is hopefully not going to harm you. Now, they say that the magnetic particles in this slime are coated with silica, inert silica, so it's not toxic. But that's the advantage of a robot like this. Chris D, love your Half-Life Histories series. We will get back to that. Tactical Bucket says, can't beat the 9-minute speed run. Actually, Distortion 2 just had an under 7-minute, I think. It's like 6 minutes something. So 100+ hour game, thanks to these speedrunning strats called zips in the game. It's down to like less than 7. Dad Innocent Guy says, on to the video title though, Kyle. Would you let something like this crawl inside you? Personally, I'd sign up. Seems harmless enough. Yeah, get it in there. Wow, my monitors are huge today. Even though I'm so big. What's the robot do? Says Solly Dio Gloria. Solly, just rewind a couple minutes. But, yeah, going inside of you to envelop a thing that might be sharp, that might be toxic, and then being able to take that back out without retoxifying you, for lack of a better word, or scraping you up inside, that's beneficial. And when I say retoxifying, you know, there's a reason why if you swallow something really poisonous, they say don't try to make yourself throw up because it re-exposes your esophageal tissues to that thing that you swallowed, right? And so if you could leave whatever that is in place, like a battery, and just grab it, and then it could like it could be like a phage in your body, like a white blood cell. It could just like surround it, and then you could pass it, or they could remove it, or move it back out of you. Like reverse Matrix. What with the 5 says, I just wanted to tell you that etymologically, it's etymology. Etymologically. Hey Karl, I just want to tell you that etymologically, the plural of octopus should be octopodes. If I have to live with this knowledge, so do all of you. That's why I call them octopodes, because I like to pronounce them like they are Greek heroes. Michael Skinner says, could it actually eat a parasite? I don't know. I think intestinal worms and stuff hook in you pretty good, and they're so long. So probably not. If you had a stomach worm, a gut worm, what are they called? Food worms? What are they called? Don't care. Those things are like a couple feet long, right? So you'd have to, I don't know. And they move of their own volition, so I don't know if that's a tapeworm. That's it. Jeez. See, the thing about me, chat, is that my brain works on SEO. If I don't need to know something, it's gone. And so to retrieve information, I have an SEO kind of thing in my brain where it's like, I don't know the specifically tapeworm, but I remember like, oh, it eats your food and it's a worm. That's why if you follow Aria on Twitter, sometimes she tweets stuff that I say around the facility. That's why I sound like a crazy person. It's because I don't need to remember what a cupcake is called. I can just call it a muffin frosting. Search those two things, cupcake will probably come up in my brain, okay? So Silly Putty can literally scrub my insides then? If you're lucky. Chat. Peer review. So on the latest episode of the facility, we were going through the dangerous physics of rock climbing. It has been too long. It's been too long. I've been wanting to do, an avid rock climber myself, I've been wanting to do a rock climbing episode for a very long time. If you don't know, just a little bit of backstory. Before, during college, but since I was 17, 18, I've been rock climbing. So I've been climbing for a while. I used to work at a rock climbing gym. I used to teach classes. I trained for like 6 months or so with someone who was on the U.S. national team. So I still rock climb, and I love it. It's the only sport that I'm actually good at. But one thing kept happening to me, and that was this arrow that you're seeing. I got hurt in my fingers in the exact same way 3 separate times. And it's not like, it's not just like, ooh, my finger hurts. More like, oh, I can't rock climb for an entire year after this happens to me. And what's been happening is the partial rupture of that thing. I can't even say colors anymore. Yellowish thing right there. It's called your A2 pulley. I have partially ruptured this one, and this one. So both of these, and then both ring fingers and my middle finger. Is the initial pain really bad, says that innocent guy. It doesn't hurt at all. It's not a tendon. It's a pulley. Your tendon is the blue thing there. The tendon pulls your finger down, but to do that, it needs to stay nice and close to the bone, which is what those pulleys are for. And those pulleys don't have pain receptors in them. Like your brain. That's why you can be awake during brain surgery. Because it doesn't hurt. Weird, right? So when you partially rupture one of these things, it sounds like this. You're rock climbing, you hear this. And it doesn't hurt. It just feels weird. Then you touch it, you put some weight on it, something feels really wrong inside. If you fully rupture a pulley, one way to diagnose it is to see if you see bowstringing. And that's as bad as it sounds. Where if I put weight on my finger, you shouldn't see my tendon move at all. It's held in place to the bone with these pulleys. But if you fully ruptured something in here, and I pressed down on it, you would see the tendon slightly move downwards inside of your finger. That's bad. Thankfully, I've never had a full rupture. Full rupture means you'd have to have surgery. Fiery F says no pain receptors in the pulleys. It sounds like a design flaw. First of all, humans aren't intelligently designed. A lot of stupid things in the body. Second of all, as I say in the video, rock climbing in this specific way is something the body never does, usually. As I go through in the video, this position is a so-called crimping position and puts more force on this than anything else that you do with your hands. Really. Like, I'm talking about at a high level of climbing, putting your, and I do this, well, not anymore because I'm afraid to do that again, but I'm talking about putting your entire body weight on this much space on your fingertips. So this is a closed crimp position, literally your entire body weight like that. That's a lot of force in there as we go through in the video. Can practice make them stronger? Practice can make your forearms stronger, and it just makes you better at movement. How you can really injure yourself is putting yourself in a position where you're suddenly like shock loading something. Like grab something, you only have like 1 or 2 fingers on it, or your foot slips. So just getting better at climbing will make you less likely to be injured, as will strength training, getting bigger muscles, bigger leg muscles. Anyway. So I wanted to figure out what kept happening to my finger. And it turned out that because of the physics involved, a full 33% of all rock climbing injuries, all of them reported, are this exact same thing. So in the video, which I hope you watch, we go through all of that. And I just wanted to highlight what I thought was maybe some of the nerdiest responses, and then they become an honorary member of the facility, and Kevin gives you a plaque. Which they have, which is good. Michael Skinner says, how would you compare your hand strength when you started climbing to now? Is lifting weights more effective or rock climbing? If you want to get better at rock climbing, for the first couple of years, just climbing a lot is the best. And then you want to start lifting if you want to get strong. Hand strength when I started climbing versus now, I call this the swan pose because my forearm is just like solid. So my hand strength is a lot more than it otherwise would be, but that's just because, you know, you're grabbing stuff all the time. What is that title? Says Samat. Why don't you rewind then? God dang it. John Doe says, oh, you hurt your fingers because rocks don't like being held that way. Don't invade their personal space. No, I climb rocks because they're there. Zat says this video actually came out at a fortunate time. I want to go rock climbing, so I'll keep all this in mind. Hey, Kyle says powerhouse arm wrestling. I don't think I've seen anyone break down the science of arm wrestling. If you could do that, it's a lot more complex than the average person believes. Just a thought. That's not a bad idea, actually. Full on Grits says, as someone who used to be a physicist and engineer, I also used to be a climbing instructor. I think the nerdiness of climbing is largely due to the problem solving and critical thinking aspect of it. You have to think a lot about how to manipulate your body in a way that minimizes certain forces and maximizes friction. It's like a physics-based puzzle that also keeps you in shape, makes it a massive nerdy sport. Absolutely. As I say at the end of the video, climbing seems to be disproportionately nerdy. I know so many PhDs and scientists and engineers that love rock climbing and don't do other stuff. And like Full On Grit says, I mean, boulder problems are called problems because you have to solve them. They're not straightforward. It's not like climbing rungs on a ladder. You have to think about at high levels, like which way your hips are facing and what fingers you're using, and are your heels turned in or out, and how is your knee bent, and all this stuff. So what I really like about rock climbing is that I can go and for like 2 hours, even if I don't have headphones in, for like 2 hours, I won't have a single work-related thought. I'm just in the climbing zone, and that's great. Did I hear you correctly? You said that the brain doesn't have pain receptors, says Hail Hydra. Well, Hail Hydra. No, it doesn't. So they need to do general anesthetic or local anesthetic to scalp you and to take your bone out, the top of your skull off. But you can be fully awake and have people cutting out pieces of your brain, and it doesn't hurt, right? I imagine if you had to locally anesthetize the brain, that would be really bad, right? Probably. Max Marshall says, "Hey Kyle, you're my favorite YouTuber for sure. Do you climb in the gym exclusively?" Yeah, pretty much. I like gym climbing. I pretty much exclusively boulder. I like just going to one place. It doesn't take me a full week to camp out somewhere. You can get strong on weird problems. That's basically what I do. Jordan Casanova, "G'day Kyle. Good morning from Australia." Hey mate, good on you. Get up. Good day. Is it morning for you? Why don't you get up and have a walk around? Get the blood pumping? Okay, we need to... I don't know why. I don't know why I always raise my voice when I do Australian accents. "Just got started in rock climbing, Kyle." Damn. Thanks. This is a great way to traumatize me, says Megaton. Look, you can climb safely. I'm just saying, injury is unavoidable if you're not cognizant of what you're doing. Okay? And I've only injured myself 3 times in 15 or so years. So it's not like I'm constantly doing bad. And I was climbing, if you want to climb kind of casually, you're probably not going to be doing the kinds of stuff that I was doing. At my high level of climbing, twinge, speaking of twinges, twinge with the 199, at my high level of climbing, I was like flashing V10. And if you know what flashing is, not like chat, if you know what it means to flash in rock climbing, and you know what a V10 is, then you know that I was at an extremely high level of climbing. Not to brag. But that's when I injure myself. And I injure myself in a stupid way. I was coming back to rock climbing during lockdown. I had gained like 20 pounds. I had lost a lot of hand strength. My finger was already hurting. I got on something, undercling, full body, crimp position, and it snapped. And that was on me. My hand was already... Fox says flashing V10s? Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, my hand was already hurting. I shouldn't have pressed it. I just wanted to prove to myself I could still climb hard. So, it was stupid. So, right now, I mean, without pushing myself, I can still flash like V6, V7. So the strength's still there. I'm just afraid to put my... Anyway, Megaton, you'll be fine if you take it slow. I think I'm going to give the nerd of the stream to... What? This reminds me of a skiing injury I had. It was originally known as bony gamekeeper's thumb, but now has a more modern name of bony skier's thumb. When I first, and my first consultation with the orthopedic surgeon, almost everyone else in the waiting room had the same kind of cast on their hand and lower forearm as I did. Huh. Okay. Hooper's Beta, who probably rock climbs. I'm climbing max at V7 right now, says Fox. V7's hard. V7 is right before you start getting, like, that's probably the limit for most semi-serious people, and then you have to start, like, really training. Charlie says flashing means climbing fast. No, flashing in rock climbing means doing it first try without getting on it. And without looking at it beforehand. Or you might look at it like once or two. Whatever. At the base level means first try. So you walk up to the wall. Okay. You get on it. You do it first try. No practice. And that flashing is the hardest thing to do in rock climbing because you don't get to practice moves. You don't get to feel out how the holds feel. And it usually takes a lot more effort because you don't know exactly what you're going to do. So, yeah. Hello, the bow theorist. So, I haven't picked a nerdy person. I'm going to give it to the best way. Let's give it to Jed. The best way I ever had this kind of thing described to me is that the muscles will get stronger faster than the tendons. Just because you have the strength to do something doesn't mean your body can take it. This is good advice from someone that didn't listen and is grounded after I popped something in my knee. Absolutely. Listen to your body. On-site is better than Flash, says Space Gorilla. Yeah, that's without even looking at it. So Flash, you can look at the moves, and someone could tell you how, like, okay, put your hand there when you get up there, but you can't try it. On-site would be like, you don't even look at, you just like, okay, show me where it is. Okay, you're just put me in the right position. It's right there. Okay, do it. Anyway, Jed says, listen to your body. This actually happened to me where I injured one hand, and then as I was getting back into it, I started overloading this hand to compensate. I didn't want to put as much pressure on this one, so I was putting more on this one. And then I injured this hand. Jed, that would not have happened if I hadn't heard from you, so you are now an honorary member of the facility. Jacob Peterson, brother of Coyote Peterson, who I do not like. Is the Chernobyl series still going to happen in some form? I'm glad that I got to watch the Pripyat video before I got taken down. Obviously, very unfortunate timing. Hoping the war is over soon. So, the Half-Life Histories series on Chernobyl, I'm still going to put it out. It's just the context of everything has changed, right? I don't actually know, for example, if part of Pripyat or the surrounding areas in the zone were destroyed. And so if I put out a video like, this is what Pripyat looks like, it could be factually inaccurate. But we've been waiting for things to settle as much as they can, I suppose is the way to word that, before coming back to the Chernobyl series. But I do plan on putting out everything that we got there, and I'm really proud of everything that we grabbed there. So there's going to be at least 3 Chernobyl videos, and then more smaller videos like about the wildlife in Chernobyl, about what the tourism industry has done to Pripyat. So all that is still incoming. I have to balance that with wanting to be cognizant of world events and sensitive to world events and not look like I'm cashing in on them. And also doing other videos on the channel that are completely unrelated. So yeah, that's all. It's all still planned to come out. And I also got some other... I'm constantly accumulating other great Half-Life Histories ideas. I just found an amazing one the other day. Very true crime style. So yeah, it's all coming. Don't worry. Would you climb with those Mission Impossible gloves, says Unfranco. The problem with gecko gloves, or like Mission Impossible gloves, is that, well, just realistically speaking, using using what geckos are using, which are van der Waals forces, small attractive forces between things at the molecular level, just from partial charges on atoms and molecules. There's not enough surface area on the human hand, as far as I understand it, to take your whole body weight like that. Plus, even if there was, which I think they have made advancements where the surface area required is getting smaller and it's better. I think we even talked about that. Regardless, if you're climbing with gecko gloves, when you put your whole body weight's force on the window or the rock or what have you, all that force is going to be pulling on your wrist via the glove, right? It's going to be extremely uncomfortable. You would want it supported by your whole body, and that's what geckos have because it's their skin, you know? Kyle, did you see the guys that swam in Chernobyl? I think it's called diving in Chernobyl. Yeah, I really dislike the urban explorer videos of Chernobyl. I think it's reckless. I think you learn literally nothing, and they give you a bad idea. So I actively shame the people who make those videos like, hey, we went diving in the cooling pond of Chernobyl. Like, why? Unnecessary risk, promoting misinformation about what the zone is actually like, not talking to anyone who knows what they're doing. Just, it's like some asshole in a thumbnail who's like, what? Radiation? They're a net negative, and I don't like them. And you can tell them I said that. Fabrizio Barbato says, hey Kyle, I'm pretty sure I fall on the ASD spectrum. I'm 26 but can't find a good psychiatrist that wants to test me. Any tips or advice? Find a different psychiatrist. I know that's difficult to do. It's easier said than done, of course. But find someone who will schedule an appointment with you. I don't see why they would turn you down. Colin Crawford with the 10. Any chance you would be interested in going back to Chernobyl after the war to compare before and after? Talk about what Russian troops may have been exposed to and how they changed the area. I think CNN already went there and they were looking at what happened. And there's videos and pictures of where the troops were and dragging radioactive dust on their boots inside of the plant. They did all this stupid stuff. But to answer your question generally, would I go back? 100%. 100%. I would, if I could make some kind of real living out of it, I'd probably, like, becoming, like, a foremost expert on the area isn't uninteresting to me. And the town that I stayed in, Slavudic, which you heard was also taken over. I don't know if it still is. I don't think so. I like staying there. It's a great place. Nice people. So, yeah, I would absolutely go back. But I don't know. I don't know. What's it's weird to me that everyone is so enraptured, or they seem to be, about what happened to the Russian soldiers if they dug those trenches. The main point is that whatever happened, it poses no danger to the general public at all. I don't know why. I'm just not sure why people care so much what minor effects could or could not be happening to an invading force during a war of aggression. I mean, what the hell do they think would happen, you know? And as I've said on Twitter many times now, I haven't seen expert confirmation that any Russian soldiers actually suffered ARS or acute radiation syndrome. I didn't see anybody that died or anything like that. It could be definitely dangerous if you went around the zone and you touched stuff and you held stuff and you dug through the dirt for weeks at a time. Yes, you could get a big dose, but not like the kind of thing. It's not. There's nothing in the zone that is going to give you like a Demon Core kind of experience. There's nothing there that is that radioactive. It's been 35 years worth of half-lives. You know? Yeah, they destroyed monitoring equipment. They did yeah. They messed stuff up. But what I think is important to understand here is, as Nicholas is saying in the chat, usual radiation scare. Like, I don't, and we shouldn't perpetuate myths and misinformation about radiation and a place like Chernobyl. And I was thinking about doing an entire video on this, but recently during one of our Patreon live streams, I discovered that my personal, It's just stuck right to the back of this monitor. My personal Geiger counter had a dose accumulation function that I didn't know. And so I know the exact amount of radiation that I absorbed while I was there for a week. And guess what? Spoiler alert, it's not much. So, you know, it's not a wasteland. We can talk about anything else. We have about we have another 5 or so minutes during this stream. We don't have to. I guess one of my fears is that, you know, then I just become the Chernobyl guy, and that's all I do, and I just talk about radiation and nuclear power and that stuff. I have other interests. I mean, it does well in terms of videos. Do you think that it's smart to use oil reserves to counteract inflation? I don't know. I don't know so many things. And I'm ignorant of so many things. Geopolitics is one of them. I'm also not interested by it. I'm generally aware of it. What's the world's most radioactive object currently, says Shannon? It's probably some testing source of something crazy. So a man-made source of radiation, like a fuel pellet kind of thing, but not a fuel pellet, but like a man-made source of radiation that is used to calibrate testing equipment and stuff like that. That could kill you in a few seconds or minutes if you were near it. But no, it's not the elephant's foot. It's not anything like that. What about Fallout's ray guns? You could make a Fallout ray gun pretty easily. You just, I mean, and this is kind of a super villain way of doing it. You basically just weaponize medical can't speak today. You basically just weaponize medical examination equipment. You get something that emits gamma rays or X-rays for medical imaging or cancer therapy, and you have the shielded window that opens up that to a lens or just to a piece of glass. You open that up, and that's what usually comes out and goes into a person's body for imaging or tumor destruction. You just put that. You don't have to it's always radioactive. You don't have to like really activate it if it's a source. So you just put it on the end of a rifle and you just have a button that just opens and closes it. You don't see anything come out. It's not like it's not like that. You just open it up and it will just go into somebody's body. Like gamma rays. And the thing about that, oh, now you have me thinking about evil stuff. And now if you have that, if you have like a gamma ray gun, a person wouldn't even be able to hide behind a brick wall. You could shoot them through walls, through buildings, through cover, cars, other people. You could penetrate through many people at once with it. Could you hold it? Yeah, I mean, if it's shielded, I mean, the medical equipment now is shielded such that the radiation inside of this medical equipment goes out in all directions. But there's only one aperture that opens up and then some comes out. Imagine it radiating in a sphere, right? So if that shielding wasn't there, it would irradiate your face. But if it's here and you open up this side of it, it only comes out that way, right? You just turn everyone into the Hulk. I mean, they'd have growths on their body, but in their body, but not the kind that you want. Liz with the 10 says, Alex wants to know some other stuff. I have ADHD, and it's good for some things, and some things are harder, but it's okay. Tell Kyle and the other guy to be themselves. You heard what he said, other guy. Just be yourself. It's cool. I'm very familiar with ADHD. I know, I mean, everything has its pros and cons, right? I met a strong woman at the Renaissance Fair who had ADHD, and she used it to her advantage. And then she folded a frying pan into a crepe. She was very strong. And her name's Supernova. How cool. as we wind down, what are we doing this week at the facility? Well, I know I still have to get back on the gaming stuff, but usually, you know, on weekends, it's like, hey, I could either do nothing or spend 3 hours talking. Anyway, but we have more episodes coming up, of course, this week at the facility. It will be World Quantum Day on the 14th, so I will be joining a number of other YouTube creator people that you like on the science and physics side, and we will be doing quantum mechanics everywhere you look. We'll be talking to a quantum mathematician about the source, the true source of Doctor Strange's power. That's going to be on Thursday, I think. And then after that, we have another episode about a scary warning sign I saw on the internet, and I'm working right now. I'm looking down at a script I was writing about an episode about The Simpsons, believe it or not. So, as you're here, if you want to continue on this conversation after we are live, of course, you can go to patreon.com/Kyle Hill and join the facility today. You can talk with me on Discord almost every day. Woo! We have now introduced new protocols to Arya, who is actually in the Discord. She can now quarantine lab rooms if radiation gets too high in there, and sometimes they flood. It's a crazy place. She can give you muffins. She soon will be able to do your calculations for you via Wolfram Alpha API. Got a lot of fun stuff at the facility. So, no matter where I see you, if it's next week on Office Hours, if it's in the comment section of the next video. Until then, I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. If you haven't watched the latest episode, please go do so. Like this video now. And a new thing that I just remembered that we need to do. This is a new thing that we're going to do, chat. So at the end of these episodes, let's do a quick thumbnail that I can kind of like edit in to the thumbnail of this stream after it goes live. All right, so I'm gonna do something stupid. I'm gonna try to let's try to grab the algorithm real quick, okay? Oh, whoa! I'm Mr. Beast. What? I'm Mr. Beast. Oh, same 5 faces. Until next time, be nice to each other, because this is all we got. Oh, that hurts my soul.